Hello and welcome back to the Michigan State Wealth Management Association podcast. This week we have Kade Messner joining us as he shares about his journey into wealth management. We hope you enjoy.
Hello, I'm Garrett Disroth with Wealth Management Association. I'm here with Kade, and I'm gonna just let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey Garrett, thanks for having me on. Yeah, my name's Kade Messner. I'm a certified financial planner at a firm called Modern Wealth Management, and I am a lead advisor here.
That's awesome. So my first question is just what made you pursue wealth management? I know you're coming from Oakland, and how did you get the inspiration for that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So it goes back to high school, actually, believe it or not. I went to Romeo High School, which is local to Metro Detroit, northern Macomb County. And my senior year, I wanted to go into journalism. I was the editor-in-chief of my high school newspaper and yearbook. And my senior year, I had the option to take pre-calc, statistics, calculus, or I could take a financial management class for my math credit. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm never going to do anything with math. I'm going to do financial management. That sounds just like an easy type blow off compared to statistics. So I take the class, and within like a couple weeks of taking the class, my teacher took us through like the Dave Ramsey principles, baby steps. I got taught about compound interest. I got taught about staying out of debt, the power of investing and investing early, and just some really good money management habits. And that class completely flipped my world upside down. I went in thinking I'm going to do journalism. I'm going to go to Michigan State. I had a scholarship offer there to be on in the journalism department. Worked for the state news, the local paper, and I was all like signed up, ready to go. And that class just rewired how I thought and gave me a really great passion for financial planning. And I ended up going to OU, Oakland University. So I stayed home from college. I had a scholarship and grants to pay for school. I didn't live on campus. I lived at home to save money. So I began to put all these things to practice at a young age, of whether it's staying out of debt, started working full time, investing in 401ks and brokerage type accounts, and got a degree in finance. Um, I got a degree in finance, not really knowing though if I was going to do financial planning or if I was going to do corporate finance, go and be a financial analyst at some Fortune 500 company. Um, and throughout college, I did get a co-op job, meaning that while I was going to school, I was interning all throughout my classes at a couple
Mhm.
companies in Metro Detroit. And I did that for about 4 years in the financial analyst type role. But I've always kept getting a leading and a nudging inside of me to do personal financial planning. Corporate stuff was great. I was working on the cost team, analyzing cost forecasts for some companies and what was coming down the pipeline. And I was good at it, but it didn't have the meaning that I was looking for that a face-to-face financial planning type relationship would have. But I didn't know necessarily how to get into the industry in the realm that I wanted to. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, there's a bunch of different ways. Some people start off by selling life insurance or going to work for some type of insurance or annuity company and putting people into like annuity type products or whole life products. And I didn't have a passion for that necessarily. I was really seeking after a firm that did, fee-based financial planning where you don't get paid to put money into specific insurance policy or annuity policy, but you get paid to be a fiduciary, build financial plans, and invest the dollars accordingly. And I lucked out about
Absolutely.
5 years ago now. Through church, actually. I have a friend at church who introduced me to my boss here at Modern Wealth. His name's Ken Asawala, a great mentor of mine, and is now my father-in-law, actually. But I don't know how deep we want to get into that part today. We'll stick on the financial planning part. But he introduced me to his firm, and his firm was, here at Modern Wealth was exactly what I felt like the Lord was calling me to, in the personal financial management type realm of not selling anything necessarily, but being a planner first and a fiduciary first. So I've been, again, here for 5 years. I'm a lead advisor now, got my certified financial planning designation, and have been building my book the last couple of years. And it's been, oh, I wouldn't choose to be doing anything else. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, thank you so much for all of that. I know we both know Ken, and he's a great guy. He's really been my mentor the last couple of years and guided me within wealth management. And then my next follow-up is, how has your role evolved within those 5 years you've been at Modern Wealth?
Yeah, so it's evolved a lot. So funny story. When I first got hired here at Modern Wealth, I was just graduating from Oakland University. And as I was graduating from OU and thinking about making the jump to financial planning versus just corporate financial analyst work, um, I had offers from the companies I was working for. I won't say names, but a couple offers to stay in corporate finance and to have starting salaries at like 65, 70 grand a year. And what I did was I took a chance after speaking with Ken and jumped into Modern Wealth instead as an intern. So at this point, I'm
Mhm.
fully graduated. I have my degree. I've been working full time for 4 years. I have a couple great offers out of college to continue to do the work I've been doing. But I didn't feel peace on it, and I really wanted to do financial planning. So I took the internship opportunity here, which was paying about $15 an hour back then. And it was a humbling experience. And I started from the bottom rung. And that's like the only way you can really get into the business and grow organically is you need to start at the bottom. And as much as you want to be the big time closing advisor managing millions of dollars out of college, it just doesn't work like that. So I started
Mhm.
off scheduling appointments. I started off helping advisors prep for meetings. I started off printing out birthday letters every week to send to our clients, and slowly built my way into an advisor. So I was doing admin duties and then I was doing service duties. So I was sending withdrawals, I was sending beneficiary change forms, all the stuff, all the behind the scenes stuff. But all the behind the scenes stuff was building my foundation of knowledge about the entire business and how to treat clients. Um,
Mhm.
so I started more on the admin service side, but as I continued to work here, we slowly were transitioning more and more into the planning realm. I got involved with client advisor relationships in the role of we called it relationship manager, where I'm not leading the
Mhm.
clients, I'm not meeting with the clients, but if the client calls in and needs a question answered or needs some type of follow-up done, I would take those calls. I would do all the meeting prep for the advisors. I would do meeting follow-up for the advisors while they were still in meetings. And it wasn't until about year two when I would actually began to really do advisor duties, meaning that, throughout that whole process, you also need to get licensed. So I had to get my
Oh.
65, Series 65 license to become an investment advisor representative. We did life insurance license, accredited investment fiduciary, and then eventually the certified financial planner, which is like the holy grail if you want to go into comprehensive financial planning. And by the time I got my CFP, which was just over 2.5 years ago now, is when I morphed into that lead advisor role, actually closing business and leading clients.
Mhm. Yeah, I know that CFP exam is very difficult. We talk about it a lot. At Michigan State, our wealth management minor actually gives you a path to take the exam, and it's a great program. And then, what was your biggest lesson learned throughout these last 4 years where you were started at the bottom, made your way towards the top?
Yeah, the biggest lessons I have learned truly is you need to be you need to become humble. It's either you become humbled or you get humbled by client situations. Depending on what your firm
Mhm.
that you're working for is organized as. Ours is predominantly people in their late 50s, early 60s getting ready for retirement, and they need retirement plans built out to ensure that they're saving the most on taxes. They're funneling money to their estate the way that they want to in their estate plan. Investments are,
Mhm.
are invested accordingly to help stretch out the dollars the rest of their life. And then just financial planning techniques in general. So for me, it was, coming out of college and, being more of a, of a finance guy. And I think a lot of us finance guys are kind of cut from the same cloth of, being competitive, striving towards the top, wanting everything now. Almost with a little bit of self-confidence, which is great because you definitely need that confidence to be successful and to have the charisma behind you to close multi-million dollar deals with people who are 2 or 3 times your age. But
Mhm.
all that to say, it comes with time. And when I first started working here and I took the humble position as an intern, making $15 an hour as opposed to going to some corporate job doing analyst work, my mindset, and I encourage all you guys to have the same mindset, no matter where you start out as is, in order to be great, you need to serve. And I became a servant first. I became a servant to our clients, a servant to the advisors here. There was no task that was beneath me. There was nothing that was too much to ask of me, because it's by doing those little things and humbling yourself, where you actually get built up stronger and you get put in positions to succeed quicker. So I would say that that was the biggest thing is one, be humble. Don't think anything's, too far beneath you. You're going to excel a lot quicker in this industry if you position yourself as, I am serving this client or I am serving this senior advisor that I'm working with to make their life better, to make their life easier, to
Mhm.
give them the solutions that they need. That's going to build, especially early in your career, that's going to build a lot of credibility and confidence in you as an advisor to then one day make the jump to being a lead advisor. But it's always having that servant's heart. Um, and the second thing I would say would be, and my boss Ken, we already talked about it a little bit before here on this podcast, is the first few years you're in this industry, you almost have to treat it like when you're going to be a doctor. The doctors have to go and work in a hospital and, not make much money for a few years, but they're kind of they're grinding their way before they become a doctor. That's kind of how it is here too. The only way you're going to learn is by being in the business on a day-to-day basis. It's not going to be super lavish and luxury when you first get started, but it's going to be worth it. There's the statistics that I read a while ago when I decided to get into this business where it says 90% of people who want to be financial advisors quit being financial advisors within the first 5 years of their career. But the 10% that stick through the 5 years of the certifications, the CFP, the long hours, the demeaning, humble work that you need to do, will last forever and will be successful as well. So it just in my
Wow.
mind, I was always like, I gotta get to year 5. I gotta get to year 5. And I'm in year 5 right now. And I promise you, I'm not just saying this because of that statistic. I'm beginning to see the fruits of the labor that you put in the first 5 years. So it's not going to be wasted. There's going to be times where it's difficult, especially if you're trying to do it the
Mhm.
right way. But it is worth it.
Absolutely. I feel like that delayed gratification leads to, like, exponential growth at year 5 too, where you're talking about. And that's just amazing to hear. I know all of our listeners will enjoy that. What was a big misconception you had going into the business?
Oh, there's been so many misconceptions. I would say the biggest misconception is, and maybe this is just unique to my firm and my experience, is um, when you begin to work with clients who have a couple $1 million in 401ks or 5-10 million inside brokerage accounts, it seems daunting, to a degree. Like, oh man, this, especially when you're this young, this person's 2, 3 times my age. They saved all this money. They have had all this success. They're going to have an awesome retirement. What can they learn from someone like me? Like, what type of value could I have in their life? And it's common sense now if you really think about it. But they're coming to you because they need help. Just because they were a director at GM, supply chain, doesn't mean they know the first thing about financial planning or how to manage their dollars in retirement. Just because they were an engineer at Ford doesn't mean that they know everything about the tax law. That when people are coming to you, you need to have that confidence, no matter how young you are, no matter what the lies are saying in your head. As long as you put in the work and you gain that technical knowledge, I learned pretty quickly that even with the little bit of experience that I have, I know 99 more than 99% of the people I sit down with. It's very rare. And I thought I would be running into, people with millions of dollars and questioning me on things like that. But most of the time people are coming pretty humbly and they're coming to talk to you because they need help. It's not because they're trying to compare your knowledge with their knowledge. They are coming to you because they believe that you have an expertise and knowledge of the tax code or investments or financial planning strategies or estate planning that they don't have. So I realized as I was closing business and serving clients is once you can put yourself in a position to show that credibility of knowing knowing what you know and being a trusted advisor for them, they don't really care necessarily how old or young or experienced you are, as long as you can prove yourself to be credible and have the knowledge that makes their life better, makes their life easier. So that'd be the number one misconception, especially when you're young. I know a lot of other advisors who are older may not have those types of thoughts that, I have. I'm 26 years old, or you have, Garrett, or your other classmates, or your friends. That's a reality that's inside of your head. But just be confident in yourself. Have a little bit of that finance bro attitude for when you actually get to that point where you're closing business and serving clients. And, if you do the studies and you put the time in, you're gonna know a lot more than anyone coming in off the street, and you're gonna be able to provide a lot of value to their life because of the knowledge that you have.
Absolutely. Yeah, that you've worded that amazingly. And we talk about that a lot in our meetings as well, where the average age is mid 60s and being young is actually an asset. It's in your favor, especially where you have clients and you're gonna be with them their entire life. And then to wrap it up here, what resources have helped shape your thinking, whether it be books, podcasts, etc.?
Yeah, I would say the number one thing that has shaped the two top things that have shaped my knowledge in the business has been one, just being in the business, sitting with clients, sitting with advisors who are older than me, asking them questions. I'm sure that you, Garrett, you probably learn a lot through doing podcasts like this and having that financial planning minor. But you learn the most by being boots on the ground in the meeting. You can only learn so much from a textbook or a podcast or a book where you can learn a lot of technical knowledge. But I would say more important than the technical knowledge in this business is the ability to communicate, the ability to be clear in your ideas. A lot of times I'll sit with clients and tell them, hey, if I wasn't a financial advisor, I'd be a teacher because there's a lot of education that comes along with it. But you don't learn that. You don't learn how to speak to people, especially people who are older than you, if you're not inside of meetings, being a sponge, listening to the lead advisor, leading the client, listening to their responses, coming up with responses in your head and role playing during the meeting. How would I answer this question if this client asked me? Because the art side of the business is what we're all still trying to master, and we're all going to be trying to master that forever. You could have the tax code memorized, you could have all the knowledge on investments, planning, tax planning, estate planning. But even if you had all the knowledge in the world, doesn't mean you're going to be a great advisor if you don't know how to communicate it. So the art of communication is something everyone needs to grow at, and you'll only really grow at it by being being thrown into the pool and being in those meetings. But then two, if the certified financial planning designation and the coursework, that'd be number one for technical information. I've taken lots of tests. I'm doing lots of designations before, but when I got to the CFP and actually started studying, it was like I was reading the textbook and studying it, and I was living out that textbook on a day-to-day basis. It's truly it's truly the only coursework I've ever done that is so hyper specific and accurate and realistic to what you'll be facing on the job. So I
Mm-hmm.
even still I've passed it a few years ago now, but I'll still crack open my CFP course books that I was studying just to refresh myself on some of the things. Um, so when it comes to technical data, the CFP coursework is incredible. I used Kaplan as my study resources, and then I used
Mm-hmm.
a man named Brett Danko for my test prep. I would suggest both of those, highly recommended. I passed the exam within less than 12 months. Some people take 2, 3 years to study for it. I put my head down after college and said, "Hey, I'm going to be up at 5:30 and I'm going to get this done as soon as possible." Because when you're, again, I keep saying this, but I think it's going to touch a lot of you people, because when you're young in the business, in my eyes, when I got started, I thought to myself, I don't ever want any designation to keep me from going to the next level in my career. Meaning that if I knock out my 65, my life insurance, my SIE, my accredited investment fiduciary, my CFP, if I knock down all the technical data I need to know and get all the designations I need to build credibility in this business, then the only thing that's holding me back at that point is myself, or where I'm at. I didn't ever want to get to a spot where I'm like, hey, I should be closing business right now or leading clients, but your company is saying, well, you can't do that until you get the CFP, or you can't do that until you're an accredited investment fiduciary. So I would just,
Mm-hmm.
when you finish school, and it's great that you guys have programs now that allow you to work towards your CFP while going to school. Like that's incredible. But if you're one of those people who don't have that or aren't doing that, I would say the second you're out of college, just pretend like you're still in college for a couple more years and knock out those designations. Um, and the last thing I'll say is a great resource. So between sitting in meetings, CFP coursework, the third and potentially most important once you actually become a leading advisor is being up to date on world events. So I spend probably a good 30 minutes to an hour most days reading the Wall Street Journal, keeping up
Mm-hmm.
on what Trump is doing with tariffs, keeping up on the war overseas in Ukraine and Russia, keeping up on the government shutdown, because when clients come in, they're expecting you to have a well-rounded knowledge of what's going on in the world and the economy. So, Wall Street Journal, I had a professor in college in my investment management course, who used to work on Wall Street. He swears by it. That's the only truly non-biased, credible, newspaper or website that you should be reading. So it's pretty expensive to have. If you can have your company pay for it, that's great. But I think it's an investment that is well worth it, because you literally build credibility and help out and give context to why we're doing what we're doing inside of the plan when you're able to back it up with what is happening with world events. So it's just good to be
Mm-hmm.
well read, as a communicator, as a technical information with CFP stuff, and also with world knowledge. Like that will make you the most bulletproof possible as a young advisor.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. And we do get the Wall Street Journal free through Michigan State, which is great. It's part of my morning routine. Grab a coffee and get to reading. And I
That's
just want to say
perfect.
thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to meet with me. I know we all have a great time listening to this, and we appreciate it.
Hey, Garrett, it's my pleasure. Talk to you soon, man.
If you enjoyed this discussion, please like and share the podcast on Apple and Spotify. The WMA podcast is part of Michigan State University's Wealth Management Association, a student organization whose goal is to inspire the next generation of financial advisors. Feel free to follow us on social media at MSU WMA and check out our website at msuwma.com. Anything heard on either the MSU WMA or Spartan Journal podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice.